Hi everybody, it's Drew. We're out here at Idletime Farm. I'm with the Westover family. I got Smith and Sydney with me. You guys want to introduce yourselves and give a little bit of info on what you do?
Yes. Hi, my name is Smith Westover. I'm the oldest Westover son, and this is our farm. We specialize in the training, sales, and breeding of American Saddlebred show horses. Idletime Farm is owned by my parents, and we've been here since 2005. My mother got into this when she was working for Kevin Tomasco's training operation, Phoenix Stables. He also specializes in American Saddlebreds, and she worked for him for several years, right up until 2005, when my parents decided that they were ready to have their own operation. And that was the year I was born, and I can't remember a day where I wasn't here, and that's true. I feel truly blessed to be able to say that. And it's been a great way to grow up. There's never a dull moment. It's just fantastic.
Hi, my name is Sydney Westover, and I am a multi-generational horseman. I feel also blessed to have grown up on this farm. There is never a dull moment, and it's truly a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice that many people don't have the opportunity to have, and it's days in and days out of hard work, but the countless life lessons I've learned farming in general, but also horse showing, and it's a great lifestyle.
What life lessons that you've picked up on throughout here would you like to mention to everybody?
So the main life lesson that I've learned from this sport in particular is that hard work really does pay off. I had the pleasure of showing and competing at the World Championship Horse Show this summer, and before the show I was just like, I was having a mental breakdown. I was like, you know what, this all seems impossible. I don't think I can do this. And so I had a confidence boost. I had an incredible ride right before I went after an awful ride, and it was just, I went into it with a clear mind, and we worked and worked for day in and day out before that show, and to come out with a ribbon to bring home was just an honor. And so that was one lesson. Also, to add to hard work pays off, my horse would not back at one of the early shows this season, which is the judge comes around, and it's a manners test in my division, and the judge comes around and asks your horse to back, and they must do it. And at the second show this season, she would not budge, and so every single day before the World Championships, we came out and we backed, and at the World Championships, he did it perfectly. So that was just great.
Awesome. Can I hear something about like the history of Idletime Farm? I know a lot of people from town have heard of this place, but they don't necessarily know all the history behind that.
Yes, so the farm was established in 1817 by Abram Kimball. This was one of the first houses in town that he built, is the house we live in. And we have two barns that are connected to one another, and the section we call the old barn, which is the part in the front, is the original barn of the property. Okay. And that's the barn that he built. This is the barn that my parents built in 2005. You can't see the old barn, it's like it's right in front of us, but yes, this is the new portion. My family in general has been in agriculture for essentially hundreds of years. On my mother's side, my grandmother grew up on Diamond Hill. Her parents owned that in Concord, and they had dairy cows. Her mother had saddlebreds that she had as a hobby, and that's kind of the earliest example of saddlebreds in the family, is having them as a hobby, and now it's the business. And it's amazing that in 50 or 60 years, the evolution of that. We're working on, I am generation 4 horseman, which is amazing to think about. And that's really what I find so fascinating about what we do, is that most of the time it's a family that all works together, and it's multi-generational. And that's what I love so much about this breed and what we do.
All right, so we talked about the history. If you have anything to add, you can feel free to do that, Sydney. We can move on a little bit and we can talk about like the specific breed that your family raises, the importance of it, and any additional information about that that you have that you think makes your farm unique and you would like for the viewers to know.
So the American Saddlebred is the breed we specialize in, and the breed was established around the Revolutionary War, and what they needed was a large horse that could go long distances in the war, that was comfortable, and they didn't anticipate how beautiful it would be, but what happened was they got the comfortable horse and they just were naturally beautiful and athletic and gifted. So what ended up happening was they served as transportation for high-ranking officers in the military because it was a status symbol back then. And after the war, people saw not only the beauty but the athleticism, and they started using them for their own personal transport. And what I like to say is, back in those days, if you had a saddlebred pulling your cart into town, it would be like driving, your Mercedes into the supermarket, and it was a status symbol. So that's kind of how the breed started. And then around the 20s and the 30s, that's when we saw saddlebreds take their place at county fairs, and people would bring their horses in and show them against one another, and there were no real judging standards back then, so every judge had something different they were looking for, so the classes were long, but eventually the judging standards were a unified list, and then it became incredibly easy for judges to pick what they liked because it was a set.
So now there's like established rules.
Yeah, there's
it's all written down and everything.
Yeah, so the general, the standard that we look for is a long arched neck, high trotting motion from the front end, but also the hind end, and we want it to be a fluid motion. It shouldn't be what we call a sewing machine trot, which was like short and choppy. It should be a big, lofty, and smooth trot, as well as a canter. And but that's really the thing that makes the saddlebred so unique, is the natural motion that they possess.
What a lot of people don't realize is how natural all of it is. The second they're born, they can immediately stand up and run around and walk. And we've had many babies here at the farm, and it's just, you let them out and it's all completely natural. It's incredible. They stand up, plant their feet, and snort. It's all natural, and it's just the second you throw them out in the pasture, they're trotting high, and that's how they move.
And I think that our discipline and our breed as a whole sometimes gets bad publicity, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it is natural, and the horses love what they do, and they're athletes. It's true that our shoes weigh more than a hunter's jumper shoe, but if you think about it, a marathon runner's running shoes are going to be different than, say, somebody who plays golf. And the shoes support them, and it gives them just enough protection, because if you think about it, if you're slamming your leg down from level, and just the impact of that, you're going to get sore really fast. So they need protective layers on their feet.
A lot of people wonder what each class looks like. A common misconception is that we either just ride around in circles, which evidently the ring is an oval, but so we are riding in circles, but it's not as simple as bouncing on their back. It's a constant push. Also, we don't do jumping. That's a different discipline, and it's not a race around the ring. It's simply quality. So the nicest horse in the ring wins, and you're completely ranked from quality. And so, yeah.
that's the other misconception, is the rider. The appearance of the rider is not necessarily a judging criteria, whereas in some disciplines and classes it is. It's really all about the horse. And like when you win a class in Louisville, the rider doesn't get a title, the horse gets the world title. So that's really what I appreciate about it, is the recognition goes to the horse, and that's really where they deserve the recognition.
All right. Well, there's also the horse industry, and I know that there's all these shows, and people see you guys maybe at the Deerfield Fair or wherever. But I think people don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. They don't know what happens here. So can you explain to us what goes on here and what the process of preparation is like to get to that point? What qualifications need to be met to get there?
Sure. So, do you want me to talk about it?
You can explain training, I'll explain the shows.
Okay, so the training aspect is something that a lot of people don't get to see at the show, because almost all of it goes on when you're at home. And so what that looks like here is my mother, who is the head trainer here, obviously, and so her and I and Sydney, when she has time, we this summer, what it looked like was we would get up around 6:15 and be down in here, and we clean the stalls first. We empty the water buckets, clean the water buckets, scrub the aisle, take the cobwebs down, and make sure everything is nice and clean, because cleanliness is something we really strive for here. And then after that, we go into training, and we would start with, most of the time we'd start with Houston right here, just because he likes to go first. And so one of the things we do is jog the horses, which is driving, and that keeps their hind end strong and their body generally strong without having to be on their back. You think about it, if you rode them every day, they'd get sore, and it's just not good for their body. You're only training certain muscles if you rode every day. So we would jog 4 days a week and ride once a week. Or long line, which is another form of exercise for them. Long line once a week, jog 3 times a week, and ride once a week. So similarly to how you might go to the gym and train different muscle groups every day to get your end goal, we would train different muscle groups of the horses every day. And so the horses, their winter break starts November 1st, and it goes until February 1st. And on February 1st, we pull them back into work,